I want to read something from the content creator. Goes by the name Mini F Baby. Okay, Mini F Baby. All right. So it's just like this, right? I've had this for a while, by the way. And I have to clean out my goddamn. I'm cleaning out my hard drive. So I decided to pull this shit out and get something out of it because it's been sitting there for a while. All right, this is Mini F Baby. You'll realize why it's been sitting there for a while. Okay, you'll realize that once I'm done. Right, so this is many of baby's post on whatever, maybe Instagram or some other shit. But I have it, okay? It's a screenshot. When I cheated, you stayed. When I had a baby on you, you took care of me. When I left you, when you was at your lowest, you took me back when you came up. I got married and told you that we could still date in private. You agreed. Maybe the day you told me rather have some of me than to not have me at all, you made me realize what unconditional love is. You love me genuinely, and through all I put you through, you still choose me. You're the true definition of a king. Alright? Now, I don't think I need to read that shit anymore, but maybe I'll leave it posted through half of this shit so you guys can read this bullshit. Okay? And I want to tell you that I don't even believe any of this nonsense and shit, but it's quite plausible that it's true. Okay? Quite plausible and shit. There's even an attached photo of her with this guy she's supposedly talking to with his face hidden by an emoji and whatnot. And I still don't fucking believe it and shit because, you know, the propaganda, the proliferation of negative propaganda in our community is astounding and shit to say the least and whatnot. And I just look at this woman and she doesn't look like the kind of person that would rate some simp behaving that way. A true simp and shit, okay? Okay, true simp in every, you know, if this was actually true, I would expect the guy to be some kind of a basement dweller and shit. Below what they call an incel or a nerd or whatever. There's guys out there like that. I've seen them and shit. Okay, they'll take anything. They'll grovel anything. How do you think some of the women in this supposed ethnic community, looking the way they look, actually get laid and have all these goddamn kids that fuck up the system with and shit? Okay, and I know what I'm saying. And it's just the way I fucking feel. It's just the way I fucking feel and shit. Okay, this is Mini F Baby and shit. And I gotta admit, you know, I simped out in the past and shit in the '80s and stuff, and maybe a little bit of the '90s. I simped out. All right, made a lot of mistakes and shit. It's one of the reasons I be on here because I don't want nobody following my motherfucking footsteps and shit. I can never be a paragon of virtue. In this community, this saving yourself, save yourself, black man community and shit. I can't be that. I can only give an opinion and the commentary and anecdotes and shit. And I'm looking at this woman and shit, and I know how I fucking feel. And it's the most toxic masculinity that I can have when looking at a woman that writes something like this and shit. And I look at her and I don't see anything that would warrant any of the supposed things she said in the video. She looks very mid and basic and whatnot. And I just can't imagine it. That's like the guy. She might have had to rob the guy right out of the cradle. He might be a younger guy, that doesn't understand anything, and she might be the first person he ever was with. And maybe she groomed him and shit. It's just ridiculous. It makes me want to make the commentary so that you guys out there with access to your kids and your sons and your nephews, you can be on the alert and look out for these whack, these basic women that have an overinflated ego or whatnot, because that shit is dangerous or whatnot. Very fucking dangerous. Right? And we need to be on guard. We need to stay on vigilant about this would-be Jezebels and shit that don't rank. Okay? Don't rank and shit. I'm hard pressed not to talk about any personal anecdotes and shit because it would be like, oh, look at my sore, contest. If she has a negative pissing contest, I don't feel like getting into it this moment. If I share something in my personal life and shit, it's for a reason. But I feel like this is rage bait. And Mini F Baby is, she's pathetic, right? She wants a viral video and shit. She apparently makes a lot of these types of videos, looking to go viral and shit on the clueless outrage of weaker people, I guess. You know, people that maybe feeling a certain kind of way and shit, and they just got caught up in their feelings, and this shit ran across their social media platform in some algorithm or something. All right. To me, she don't look like nobody that somebody would do all that bullshit for, unless they were groomed or they younger than her, or some other kind. Maybe they're mentally disturbed and shit at some level, or some guy that was severely emotionally and spiritually abused growing up and shit. We know that's an experience that most, black men go through in this country. Okay, 3Ks and said, we know that's an experience that we all of us share. No, I don't want to say bitterly share or nothing, but it's just a part of our life. It made us Teflon Dons emotionally and spiritually for the most part and shit. When we crash out hard because you bottle all that abuse up and shit. You bottle that shit up and you keep pushing it until you can't go no more. At some point, the rubber band snaps and shit. Then you get uh, you get an unintentional validation of their negative representation of us. All right. I don't think she got it like that, okay? I'm not even gonna give her a rating and shit. I'm just gonna say, you should use Grammarly or something to, you know, write better posts or whatever. You seem to be lacking, okay? And I looked at the picture, and you just no great shakes or whatnot. It looks like, I just picture them in matching flannel shirts, you know. She's posing smiling. I can guarantee you whatever head is behind that emoji is not smiling and shit. It's a struggle picture. It's basically he's emotionally bludgeoned to death and forced to be in these fucked up pictures. He probably don't even want to wear the same kind of shirt. Nobody wants to be out there like that and shit. It's ridiculous and it's redundant in a modern society in 2025 to see, they be doing this. Everybody wear the same clothes shit. You know, I can't even think I've done that. I've been with some really codependent, needy ass women and shit, and I can't recall us wearing the same kind of clothing. Okay? The funniest thing that I ever did, before I ever had a girlfriend, I remember on Valentine's Day when I was in high school. Now I went to school and I was wearing a white long sleeve business shirt and some white pants for some reason, and a black belt and some like Doc Martens and shit. And I went to the cafeteria and there was a food fight. This is unrelated, but it's like a food fight, and everybody in there, all the assholes in there, decided to throw every ketchup and mustard they had on me and shit. And I had to go to class. I had to go to class with a splotchy mess. And some asshole in there told me, "Can he have some of my shirt to put on this hot dog?" You know. Yeah. When I was with my first girlfriend and shit, wasn't even like that. We never did no shit like that. Right? But, I know when looking at the fucking picture, and I feel bad for the guy hiding behind the emoji, but and maybe that was the most human she could be, the nicest she could be to someone she was abusing so heavily and shit, and so continuously. The nicest thing she could do was to hide his face from the public and shit. Or maybe that's not even her boyfriend. Maybe that's like a cousin or something. Or maybe that's a stud. We don't know. All we know is that she is a run-of-the-mill, basic black female misandrist. Alright? This has been a teachable moment and shit, or some leftover shit on my laptop that I want to get rid of. Alright? That being said, I don't feel like I need to do the three basic rules. I'll do that in another video and shit. Yeah, fuck this chick, man. To me, like I'm looking at her, I don't see anything worth being with and shit. And I've seen other pictures of her where she's wearing like leggings and shit, and it's just like blah, snore. I don't feel the need to do anything. I'll just lay here. You can do all the work and please see yourself out and shit. Don't make no noise. Feel free to lock the door if you want and shit. Once you leave, I'll get up and be energized and start gaming or watching a streaming service and shit. Once you're gone, and don't worry, I will be taking a bath after pouring hydrogen peroxide all over my penis and resuming my life and shit. And you will not get a call. If you text me, then maybe at some point when I ain't got nothing to do, you can come on over and shit. And I'm non-select as fuck. Okay, and motherfuckers out there who think that's not, think I'm just being performative and shit. I can tell you honestly and shit, It been like that sometimes. Okay, when you stop giving a fuck, then everything opens up and shit. You understand what it means to be, in the behind the wheel of a car driven by Pookie, right? And that's sad. Right? That's not what we should aspire to be and shit. We must be better, you know. And we must strive to listen better to these women and shit, and understand and believe what they say, because they're always telling themselves, because they don't have no sense of like self awareness. Anyway, I'm out with the shit. Make of this what you will.
All these podcasts of men saying like women don't bring anything to the table, women don't do anything, these modern women ain't shit. If y'all want to fuck a man, just say that. You don't gotta make a podcast to say how you really feel, because it's starting to get suspicious. Either y'all want to deal with women in their bullshit or you don't, and you want to deal with a man. What is your other options? Y'all be talking like y'all got other options. What are you gonna do? Date a fish? Shut the fuck up and deal with it like we have to.